We're here today with Mr. Odie and Nathaniel Davis. We want to interview them for the history harps of SAAACAM because we feel that they have information that's going to be very vital for our community, not just for today, but for years to come. And we want to get right into the interview. So the first question for each of you is, if you could give us your name, your date of birth, and where you're from. We'll start with you, Mr. Odie.
Okay, my name is Odie Davis III. I was born in January the 13th of 1955, born and raised here in San Antonio, Texas.
You, Mr. Nathaniel?
My name is Nathaniel Davis. I was born in 1957 and August 25th, and born and raised right here in San Antonio.
Okay. So if you guys could tell me a little bit about your parents.
Well, probably both of us could talk at the same time, but
And if you do, that's fine.
Yes. We are from Nadine Davis, actually Jefferson, and Odie E. Davis. And my dad came from Houston, as far as we have the knowledge, that to work and start developing some type of recreation around here for kids, I guess, for when we're about to grow up and haven't even been born yet. So I guess somewhere he started with the YMCA in 1945. And I was born 10 years later.
Anything about your parents that stick out to you as
You
far
can let
as...
him answer the question.
Yes, sir. Go ahead, sir.
Well, as you said, my father came here looking for recreation and was the main founder of this place that we sitting in, the Davis Scott YMCA. That's why it's named after him. He was a one-man show, and he did everything. But he did solicit a few people like Dr. Scott, S.T. Scott, to come in to help him raise funds. But for the programming aspect, baseball, football, basketball, every sport you can think of, anything to keep the young kids occupied in the neighborhood. I'm gonna digress a little bit because back in the day, doing 45, as you can imagine, you were not allowed to play anywhere. We were not allowed to play anywhere. We had to find open spaces, people's yards, all of that kind of stuff. And so my father gathered 36 men together, had the same interest into providing recreation and a place for our kids to go. And so they got tired of us playing in their front yards and all of that kind of stuff. And so that's why and the baseball, the Bears, and all the other stuff started happening when he started putting these people together in order to make a recreation facility or a recreation experience for all African American kids. And he didn't just do African American kids, for all kids. Let's just say that.
Yes, sir. So what did your parents do for a living?
Well, that's what he did.
So that was his life.
He was
Wow.
the executive director of the
That is
Y.
awesome.
And so
Yeah.
Nathaniel and I grew up in a system where it was always we, us, and they. My daddy cared about his community way more than I must say than his own family because he knew we were going to be fine. But he would always put them in front of us. And they always got carte blanche. If we were laying in bed, he used to put us out of bed and put them in the bed if they had a problem in doing it. But he went out for the community and he used to pick up 90% of the kids. If they couldn't get to the YMCA, my daddy would get in that station wagon and later become a van and doing things, but they would go out and get the kids to bring them to the YMCA and home.
That's awesome.
And my mother worked in the school system for a while, and then she went into to be a nurse's aide for the city of San Antonio, where she got some awards for doing different personal relationship things. Because she was also a person of the family, and they say it takes a village.
Yes.
And they were all part of that village that the whole community used to share in raising kids, because each parent, no matter who it was, could whoop your kid or let's say discipline your kid.
Mm-hmm.
And now they've taken that out of climate, but it took a village to raise everybody. And he just used to, I don't know, his community was his life.
Yeah, it's awesome. So, being a part of the YMCA, or the recreational entity, I would say, how do you think this has shaped your lives, and have you transferred any of this to your children?
Wow. Well, we sit here in front of you.
Yes,
Let's
sir.
say that.
Yes, sir.
He not only saved our lives, he saved everybody in this in the community that touched it. He touched it. He saved their lives as well. He dedicated over 30 years of his life to helping others and to helping this community. And I just recently retired in 2012 with 32 years of service to this YMCA. And so that's the legacy he left behind.
And if he was able to do it, they used to at one time wanted to put a wall down where the swimming pools were of all the successful people. You remember that come through this YMCA doing?
Right.
We have doctors, we have lawyers, we have policemen, we have fire chiefs, and I don't know chief, but firemen. But you'll see a wide vast of people that came through this Y back during that time, because it was a salvation for kids to stay out of trouble,
Wow.
And unfortunately, the administration, and I'm gonna say it, and I don't really care who sees it, the administration of the YMCA was prejudiced. They did not want us. They did not give him all of the support that he needed. They still did not allow it. We couldn't even go swimming in the YMCA. We are a YMCA, and we couldn't even go swimming in the pool. If we did, they would drain it. They would drain it and then put new water in if we did something to it. So, we fought through some real racist and prejudiced times, and they still exist to this day. I probably would still be sitting here in this seat today if it wasn't for some of that prejudice that we have. And I say this often: if we could just get past our prejudice, this would be a hell of a country. But people can't get past it. When you succeed and when you excel past and beyond what is expected of you and what they expect you to do, then you're a threat. See, then you're a threat to them. And all we're trying to do is live in a country with everybody else like everybody else.
So that's a good segue into another question. What do you think, either of you, could be a fixed action for the prejudice and the racism that's going on? Now, I know this question has been asked many, many times, but there would not be a question if there wasn't a solution somewhere. And I'd imagine the solution is going to take some heavy lifting, but what do you think could alleviate some of those things to make this a more inclusive community and certainly a more inclusive YMCA?
If they would just understand inclusiveness, working together, those kind of things. We're not trying to be better or worse or anything. We're just different. We're just different than you. And we want to expect our difference, you expect ours. Respect ours. Those kind of things. That's just simple as that. Live by the golden rule. All of those kind of things. It's just simple. It's a simple solution. But it's a solution that they do not want to move into. They're afraid of that. And I'm going to let him speak. But it's two things that a white man is afraid of. And I'm telling you, I don't care who he is. He said, an educated black man and female, male or female, and being broke. Those are the two main things. They jump out of windows for that. Those two things right there. And so once you are a threat to them, the only thing they know is extermination. Get rid of it. Move around. Get. That's the only thing they know. They don't know. They're afraid to communicate with us and talk to us. That's the main thing.
Those are good points, because it's just equality. And like you're saying in the subject I was about to say is our ancestors never got a chance to do certain things. So the society that we live in is totally different than the other society that everyone else grows up in. They grew up where when they asked their parents for a new bicycle, they got a new bicycle. We grew up on a new bicycle, and you know what they're gonna tell you, boy, we ain't got that kind of money to do
And you
this.
better fix it and go find you some
Go
spare
find
parts and
something.
deal you want.
And it's just like when we did Pop Warner football here in San Antonio for the first time. My dad had gotten in doing it. Nathaniel and I and my dad used to go out to different places where they collect cardboard and doing things. And whether it was a recycling place or doing it, but we took all that cardboard back home and we made shoulder pads that my dad had designed for us to tape and do. And we made thigh pads and we made knee pads. And at the same time, he handed us these helmets that didn't have face masks.
Yeah, face mask.
They blocked the whole time. So we were first playing in that type of environment. But as we got into the system, it was so ironic, we won. That's the only thing we went in where everyone had new uniforms, all these other teams all over town doing it, and he brought our little bear team over there. And we probably looked like, being alone and doing things, but somehow at the end of that, we won. And now the one thing that through this YMCA growing up with, there were successful attempts at whatever was going on because the leaders were teaching us in the proper directions. It wasn't like they were just here. Because we won at all levels of sports and doing things. And a lot of people came out here very educated. And so it wasn't just here for athletic reasons. No, there was discipline. There was all type of fundamental things that had to be a character that they were trying to develop. And that's what I think the biggest blessing and the legacy of it was back during those times. They were building character into the youth that were coming through, almost like you saw John Lewis said such a thing called good trouble.
Yes, sir.
But back to the subject, we've always had to play second fiddle. And it's just the fact that, hey, if our grandparents could have had and collected money, it would have been, or his parents could have collected money and doing it, but no, we had to be servants of the world for nonprofit.
Yep.
And so legacies, I don't know, he instilled in a lot of people.
Right. So has sports always been a part of your life, or do you have other interests?
I grew up with high expectations. I mean, we played sports as a recreation. Our educations were more important to do things. And I think that was one of the reasons to help me advance my sports was I was an engineer. I was an architect. So I was in college to learn to do some things, and sports was a recreation. And I saw so many people growing up with the priority of sports, and sometimes the dreams don't quite go that way. So I was blessed that I had a mother and that used to really stay on me about education, and so did my dad too. He stayed on all of us, because sports was what would you say, the secondary thing?
Secondary, it just kept us busy, kept us out of trouble.
So would you say to young people today that they may need to rearrange their priorities? I know so many people, young men in particular, their chief aim and goal is the NBA or the NFL. And like you said, sometimes dreams don't pan out. So what would you say, each one of you, to these young people, if they come across you and they say, I'm going to make it to the NFL, I'm going to make it to the NBA, what would your advice be to someone with such a narrow focus?
If that's his focus, if that's their focus, then pursue it. Pursue it to the utmost. I mean, give it your all. But you gotta always make sure you have a backup. You mentioned earlier about education. You gotta realize, everybody they forget, let me just say they forget, that we were denied this basic opportunity of education, our ancestors. Well, that's not happening anymore. We are educated people now. We don't have to be excluded, and you can't talk over us anymore. You can't talk past us through us, or anything like that. And so that means other opportunities are available to you. Not just this, not just baseball, basketball, football, not just that. There are way many other opportunities because the longevity is not going to be long enough for you to even make a living. I mean, you get hurt. Well, you can't make a living, don't get me wrong, but you can say if you get hurt in a couple of years, that's gone from you. Then you don't make it, that's gone from you. Now what you do? So you gotta always have to have a plan B and a backup plan. And education, as long as you use your education, you should be fine.
So
Then I think that's it. You know, the words of what he just spoke and doing it. We had a real good model of success through people growing up to want to be a professional athlete because the YMCA, the Spurs used to come here. George Gervin, first of all, used to come through here at such an early age, and we saw it. You could put your hands on a pro. You know what I mean? So you knew it wasn't out of the picture. You know what I mean? You could see a doctor or somebody come through and doing it. You could put your hand on them. You knew that it was available. And so the dream of a kid today has to be at whatever the stars that he's shooting for. You have to go for them. If you want to be a pro athlete, you just got to work hard and do it. And that's one thing in my accomplishments in doing it, it was a lot of work. It was a lot of work to get to where I was. And my brother would know it, and the people that grew up with me at Prairie View knew that I worked very hard. I didn't know what I was doing at the time. I mean, now I can look back at it, but I worked hard and it took a lot, but I think the distractions kept me from socializing. And so I never was much on socializing, and I didn't get a chance to do all the partying that went on in college and doing it. So the sacrifice that was rendered made it real, because they said I couldn't play baseball and do architecture when I was a Prairie View. And I was determined to prove them wrong. And with the help of all my family and doing things, I was able to achieve these goals. But at the same time, you have to leave behind you some of the things in doing it. And some of that history of doing it, I have a daughter who's a medical professional. She's a doctor. And so she saw a lot of the YMCA growing up in it and doing things. So I think all kids can shoot for doing whatever they want to be. And if they want to be a professional athlete, you got to work at it. But you do, like he said, you better have a backup. Because that's the only thing with mine, it wasn't as long as I thought, but I did realize that I did everything I did to become a Major League Baseball player. There's one part of that aspect I missed. And it was, what was I going to do to stay there? And that was the difference, because once you get to the top of something, do you know there's nowhere else to go? There's nowhere else to go. And you got a whole bunch of people standing right there trying to get on that field, and there's nowhere else to go. And just luckily with the family and everything, came home and was in business before I knew it, not by choice, but God blessed me to start a construction business.
I did want to ask you about your professional baseball career. I've never met a professional athlete, so I feel very privileged to have met you today.
Okay.
And you said it took a lot of work to get there. And I just want to circle back around to you saying that not doing what it takes to stay there. Could you elaborate on that just a little bit?
I guess once I was there, and it's only 2016, I think, to that knowledge back then, 13. That meant that it was only two infielders that were available to start at shortstop. One on one team and one on the other team. And there's going to be a backup for each one of those. So you look at that, there's only like 52 slots available. Well, do you know how many people have made it to the major leagues in the big league? A whole lot of them. And all of a sudden there started being Latin players coming to play the infield, and that just really pushed us out the way, and me just kind of out the way. It wasn't but about 4 or 5 back during the time. Gary Templeton, you had UL Washington, you had Ozzie Smith, and a multiple, maybe about 3 or 4 others, but it was really diminishing down, and that's what I meant by being able to stay there. I just got there, and then it was now to realize that life still goes on.
How about you, sir? Did you ever play
Well, for
professional?
me, no, I'm not a professional. For me, I played ball at Prairie View. That was a way to keep me busy. I had no aspiration to ever play football. I played ball to control my weight, for one, and to keep me out of trouble. That was the main thing. But as I got into it, I became pretty decent. You know, I wasn't expecting all that, but I never put in the work that he did because I played basketball too, and all, but he played baseball. Okay, but he played every sport. Don't get me wrong, but baseball was all we, you know. But I could play pretty decent. And so I said, well, let me give this a chance. So I did get a chance to go to a camp in Paris, Texas, with the Philadelphia Phillies. So when I went there were 250 high school students there, high school seniors. And then they had about another 100 of us from college. So they moved the 100 to college us over to another field. We played for a week. They broke us up into teams, and they make like 6 teams out of that. And you just played for that weekend, and they were doing something else with the kids. I didn't know what they were. But after I got there and saw all of that, and then I could picture the sacrifice that he made and all other stuff, and I looked at myself and I'm like, I wouldn't put my stuff in my truck, in my car, because I knew I wasn't be able to do it. I didn't have any aspiration to really do it. I went to school as a physical education major and kinesiology major with a minor in education, elementary education, sociology, and psychology. So that's pretty extensive. But I did that. Never wanted to come back here, to be honest with you. I had enough of the YMCA. YMCA, I was here. But I always wanted to get into the coaching aspect of all of that kind of aspect. Anything physical therapy, anything dealing with sports medicine, all of that was my aspiration.
But we never
Until I got here.
to be a pro. Neither one of us never talked about it. And to this day, I only went to one camp, but for 4 years in college, they used to invite me to go to a trial camp, and I never went. Never went because for some reason, like he said, we wasn't trying to be a pro. I wasn't trying to be a pro.
I just went with my friends. The guys on the team, they wanted to go. Come on, let's go.
And they would go every year, but I would never go.
Wow.
Until the last time they got me to go to the last one to do it. And then,
So that was my little small cup of coffee, which was last week. Well, I had a jersey, but I no longer have it. Anyway, but I said all that to say this, and this is what I really wanted you to hear. I found out why I didn't have trials there. When I left there, Charles Shannon, you see his picture on the wall up there, and for a long time, they thought he was our brother. But anyway, he called me. He said, man, I need you to come up. He said, I need you to, he wasn't here, he was in the Navy or something. I said, I need you to go out a while. He said, I want you, if it's the YMCA, because I told him, I said, and I don't want to have nothing to do with it. He said, if this is the YMCA that your daddy built, he said, then don't call me back. So now I'm curious. I don't know what's going on now. I had my car, and I rode up. I walked through this front door. They had just built this facility in 1979. I had just walked in this building, and I smelled, as soon as I hit the door, I smelled marijuana. I'm like, it's the YMCA. There was no staff around. There were people swimming. I walked in the gym, there were beer bottles all over the place, the guys cussing, smoking, pickup games. Who is running this damn place? All that hard work my daddy went through didn't go in and get a new building for them to do this to it. So I called Short. And I was taking some master's classes when I was going to go back and get a master's. All that went out the window when that happened, because I said, man, listen, we got to save this. We've got to save this. And so that's when I knew my purpose. And that's when we came in. He came in later. He came in. I was hired in 1980. He was hired in 1982. And we came in here and got gangbusters. We had to clean this thing up.
Yes.
It was so bad. We had syringes, beer bottle, broken glass, all this in our playground area. So the kids was playing around this stuff. So every morning we go out there and we clean it up.
Tremendous job. They did. They cleaned this community, this whole area. They up it all just went
and we make this thing for everyone. And so we told the gangsters, you still can come in here. We don't care, but you will be abiding by these rules. You're going to respect this facility, and this is going to be a neutral zone. And that's what we did.
You mentioned you had a friend who was in the Navy. Did any of you serve in the military? Any family members serve in the military?
No, but in Prairie View in college, I studied naval warfare. I was in the ROTC and doing it, but no, I never did we didn't get any military time.
I was lucky. 1975, graduated from high school, Wheatley High School, and the draft was eliminated. I was so happy.
And I remember some of the draft because I went and they had told me I had flat feet, so they wasn't interested. And so I was like, okay. Well,
yeah, so we didn't have to register.
So you had gone?
I had to go somewhere. I remember going somewhere, and I was very young though, and I'm thinking I was maybe been at Wheatley because I went to Wheatley High School, but yet I finished from Breckenridge. And Wheatley was up to the year of 1969. Well, that year of 69 to 70.
Yeah, 69 to 70.
And it was over with. And so we had to get bused in to other schools. Well, I was 70, 71, plus my 71, 72. And that's how I went to Breckenridge. But Wheatley High School was where all of us were originally supposed to go. At that time, and somewhere during that time, I had some affiliation with the ROTC or going to check on something that I remember, and not vague, but I vaguely remember that I know I went. They told me I had flat feet, so I didn't get a chance to be drafted.
So I guess the question that I've been wanting to ask all morning is, tell me about your affiliation or, I guess, your connection with Negro League Baseball.
Well, that's a good question because a lot of this Negro League Baseball is before our time.
Mm-hmm.
We came up through my dad taking us to Negro League Baseball because that was all of the baseball a Negro could play. You couldn't play for everybody. Just like Wheatley High School, it took them for the longest. They could not play San Antonio ISD schools. So Wheatley High School, the champion they were, and they had some prolific people come out of there. Even Cliff Johnson, that has probably 6 Major League Baseball rings from the New York Yankees. He came from that school, but they never got a chance to play against the San Antonio Independent School District. They had to go to Houston to play. They had to go to Corpus Christi to play, Kerrville, East Central would play them, Austin. And so, I don't know, it was kind of the way my dad had us because that was the only way he did. So he had some teams that, like we explained earlier, that he was formulating and doing it. They had some semi-pro teams that were playing further out, which was the Black Sox and the Yankees, and then some of the other teams. He was basically getting amateur people here to play, which was called the Denver Heights Bears, which is the neighborhood we're in, the Denver Heights. And so we were the Bears, and as Nathaniel and I grew up, we were very young when they were playing, but we used to go to all the games and sit on the bench and go in, and that was one of the things that we got exposed to amateur baseball at an early age. And I think it was one of the pluses in my career going, because at 12 years old, I think as kids 17, 18, 19. And he would put us in there with the fire, you know. But he had a lot of distinguished people that couldn't wait for the weekend to play, like down here at Pendleton Sullivan Park and then the Alamo City League. And I let him elaborate.
Well, the actual progression was when my daddy formed Pee Wee's, Little League, Pony League. Yeah, Pony League was about 12, 13. Mm-hmm. Nothing else out there. Nothing else out there. So that's when Negro League Baseball in San Antonio happened for us, you know, as a group, because they started, well, let's start the older guys and keep them going. And that's when they, like the Alamo City League and all that stuff, that's when they started doing all of that kind of stuff down here in Pittman Southern.
Yeah.
Because it was just a progression, you know, to keep baseball going in your older, you know, as your teenage years into your early, you know, in the early 20s and stuff.
And we as kids, we're little, and see, they had the Missions here, which was part of the Astros.
The first team was the Pittsburgh Pirates.
The Pirates, you know, that has a lot to do with why this stadium used to be so huge down here at the park. The fence used to be way back there, and that was because they'd always told us Pittsburgh. You do it
not whole game now.
Right, it had chain link fence. I mean, it had a tall fence that was about 8 to 10 feet tall. You couldn't see in it. And that's where that knot hole, like you said, we used to peep in there to see those pros. And like I say, and people growing up, but at the same time, my father and some other people you had like out there, Mr. Blevins and Mr. Brock, it's a number of Mr. Crawford, there was a lot of them that
Coleman, you know, I mean, we got a name we can throw in there.
Yeah, they all were trying to play ball. Ball was a big game.
Mm-hmm. Ball was just a tool. You know? Keeping kids busy is the main thing that these guys had on their mind.
And that was what they were doing. Because that idle mind
through sport.
Mr. Odie, what would be one of your biggest challenges that you had playing in Major League Baseball? What was your biggest challenge?
The challenge was probably the talent that you were facing. It was at a level that was very promoted. It was very prepared, I guess to say. And fitting in, as it, you know, it still was a little bit of, you know, some anxiety along there and doing it with the challenge, with the people that you were playing against and with and doing it. And sometimes in our organization, you know, I just tried to stay to myself and I didn't try to blend in and do a lot of things because even then a lot of it wasn't really fair. But I was there trying to get a job, you know, not make friends. And through that challenge and growing up in a system like the YMCA and doing things, you take challenges and solve problems. You solve them, and you try not to pay too much attention to them. But I would say, I don't know, the challenges is just playing at the level that needed to be played at every day was a challenge because it was the best in the world.
Mm-hmm. So throughout your, let's say through your career, what would have been one of the most memorable moments?
Getting my first hit as a Major League Baseball player in my first at bat. So that was a very important thing to me, and I was hitting off of a Cy Young winner that had won the Cy Young the year before, and so it was an experience.
Wow. First at bat.
First at bat.
Wow, that's almost unheard of. That is crazy. So then, for each of you, listen to how pivotal the YMCA has been, and I appreciate everything you said about it because that's what community needs to be, coming together, people, and making things work together so everybody's promoted. But how, going forward, can we deal with the social environment that's going on right now? Can the YMCA be one of those linchpins that continue to create the inclusion of diversity? How can we deal with what's going on now and have YMCA be a pivotal part of that?
Well, as I said earlier, if management and administration would be sensitive to the needs of your constituents, and the constituents come first, the Y could be, definitely could be that. As they are right now, they have changed to a health and fitness model that doesn't work. Okay, our kids are being lost. Our kids are not in these facilities, Boys and Girls Club as well, all of them. I mean, they need to be in these facilities to keep them busy and keep them occupied. If we don't, we'll never be able to change the culture. Instead of, people are afraid of the unknown, but you can't be afraid of that, you know. So if you would understand it and learn it, and just, a little dialogue, then you shouldn't be afraid of Black people. You shouldn't be afraid to interact with us. You shouldn't be afraid not to do, it takes more to come together. It takes less to come together, than it does to stay apart. And as you can see, when segregation started, I'm gonna go back a little bit. When my dad and them had YMCA was on Commerce Street, 1730 East Commerce Street. That whole corridor was nothing but Black-owned business. Each one of those people took care of each other. When segregation happened, what happened? Everybody moved out. Everybody moved out. As you said earlier, we had our teachers, our doctors, our lawyers, our principals, our coaches. They all lived in the same neighborhood we did. We knew each other personally, most of them. But see, when integration hit, everybody moved out, ran out, and so your basic neighborhoods are lost. They don't. There's nothing that like back in the day, where everybody was staying in the same areas. So that's some of the main things. The YMCA is a great place to start with. I tell everybody that if my dad and them would have found the Boys and Girls Club, if they found another entity, they probably would have did it. But they picked the YMCA because of the Christian values. And so if we don't continue to follow the Christian values, the golden rules, and those sort of things, we'll never be able to change.
But this building was for the kids. That's the difference of what he's speaking about now. It was when you started at 4 and 5 years old, you could stay in here till you were 26, 27, because we had baseball for you and doing things where it was pool tables. Like I mentioned you earlier, it was a domino table. I mean, there was a checker table. It was racquetball. When all of the things started getting taken from us in this our community started going away because it was certain things that drew people here. And that racquetball court used to have the greatest thing in the world. Almost all the police officers used to come in here late at night for exercise. People that drove for VIA, the bus people, they used to meet up here at night because we had a men's facility that had things for lockers for them to lock their stuff up and do it. So you had a lot of different people at the time interacting here as a haven. Whereas he mentioned now, you don't see these things and it's for adults. we need our YMCA back if we're going to keep trying to help these kids. But I do have a real good answer for that question that you asked and doing it, and it's probably going to be shocking. Change in racism don't start with us. We ain't the ones creating the problem. We're trying to get justice and try to just say that, hey, we are equal. And now the thing about playing sports, I guess, to find out back at an early age that, hey, I can play on the same field with him. Hey, matter of fact, we just as good as he is. Well, they have to let us get on the field. And that's when you find out that you can do that. And I say that with racism to the fullest degree. It's not us that's causing it. It's the other people. You know, go interview some of the real reasons we really seeing problems with.
You're absolutely right. So with that, what are your memories? And I know you've mentioned before about integration being one of the things that has caused our communities to kind of dissipate. But what were your experiences with the integration in the city of San Antonio?
Well, like you said, swimming. We knew we couldn't swim nowhere and doing things. So we remember my dad one time calling the newspaper and everybody telling him we was going out to San Pedro Pool was where the big pretty pool was and everything. And man, they had a mass day that day because the press and everybody showed up, but we were going in there to swim. And through some of those values that we were denied, we saw a lot of different things that went on. You know.
Well, one of the main things was us trying to kind of break through some of this stuff is the understanding and respecting or acknowledging the expertise of the individual. Look at that individual as a, as a person. I mean, we still fighting for basic rights, basic human rights, and then we could prove our work. One of the main things about, these kind of interviews is that it's going to offend some people. And you're supposed to, because if you don't, like you say, John, do the good trouble. This is going to be good trouble. Because their mindset is, they can't come up here with us. Get them down there. And I'm going to give you an example. And I can tell you, I really don't care who sees this. One of the main reasons why I retired, I was up for a position for $140,000. And they go, wow, we'll offer 80 and 80. See, and that's the way they do us. You see what I'm saying? You can't come up here with us, but I can give you a little bit. We're sick and tired of being given a little bit. Piece after piece after piece, matchbox theory. Nobody wants it. I want the whole pie from now on. Give me the pie, I'll eat what I want. And see, that's what it has created. It has created more intensity on our part, African Americans, and some animosities. So you can't blame those people for that. See, they get mad because these guys are protesting, get mad because they're sick and tired of being dealt with like this. It's ridiculous. We didn't do nothing to deserve this.
Right.
All we did was got born, and here we are.
And then the system had them by giving them numbers. There was so many people out in the neighborhood that got numbers early in life, and it has ruined their life. From little bitty misdemeanors of doing something, instead of the officer letting them go and doing things as they do some of their friends and doing things, it happens on a large scale somewhere else. But over here, you got to make an example out of it. Got to put them in there. And then you worry about it. Then next thing you know, they wonder why it's crime. Well, you got a bunch of people that can't get a job because you put them in the system, and we gullible because we've been denied so many years that we have to try to reach for it and not knowing the consequences down the road. And then when they get down the road, it's sad to say because the system have already pushed them. But like you say, we need equality to start, and it has to start in It's not so much us.
Yeah.
It needs to start with the people that's dishing it out.
Would it be fair to say that, in light of what you just said, YMCA has missed a lot of good opportunities to mitigate that because of failures in leadership, failures in understanding the difference in people, failure in fair dealings, that the YMCA could be the catalyst for change in every community around the world, as opposed to being still kind of stratified to be just for adult physical fitness as opposed to being for community wellness. Do you feel that the YMCA may have missed an opportunity to be that catalyst?
You never have missed, I think.
Well, I say yes. Since I'm gone,
It's gone.
I'm gonna say yeah. But we haven't really, like you say, it's still available for us to do. If that's the direction they want to take, that's what you're trying to say.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to say, not to cut you off.
I don't know if they even want to go that direction.
Because I think they're achieving their goals.
But my other job, when I left here, I went to the corporate office. I was the director of financial planning. Okay. Major gifts and financial planning. So if I would walk up to you and say, look, I need you to make a donation to the YMCA to cover health and fitness, what would you say?
Okay, how much?
Oh, you would. Now, if I come to you and say, I need the same thing for the kids in the community,
Okay.
but the two differently, see, you're a different person. The first person would say, wait a minute, them adults can take care of themselves. You see what I'm saying?
Right.
Health and fitness is them adults, they can let them pay for their own self.
Right.
But if I say kids, checkbooks open.
Gotcha.
Checkbooks open.
And that was what the why was really about when my father started. And he would go get corporate sponsors to take care of the kids. He was not asking the family for no money to bring that kid up to do nothing. The corporate family of what his purpose was, those are the people that's going to pay for these kids.
And that quality be continued until I
I
left.
must say that he
And
went
after I
in
left,
there
it's gone. It left.
doing it, that he sacrificed his year. Every year he would get a raise. My father would take that raise and put that money back into that YMCA for all of his years. For $7,500 that he started, when he finished, he was still making $7,500 after 30 years. Because he would take all of the money that they would give him and put it back in their system. He'd get $1,000 raise. Hey, that's 10 more kids next year. He'd get a $1,500 raise. Hey, that's 15 more kids. He said it'd take $100 to raise a kid back during that time for a year.
Yeah.
And he'd go pick them up. So he sacrificed his money, and that's where my mother's pension, when she got out, was very minimal. And that's why the family was always together to do things. Because it wasn't about the numbers that you see today with these extravagant salaries that a lot of people are making, but they are going through the motion of working here at the Y, but how many of them really sacrifice to developing the kids that come in and out? Like a lot of people say nonprofit. Well, nonprofit is a big word in doing things. Do you know those are extravagant salaries that they're being paid? That don't mean nothing like it used to mean when someone say nonprofit. That means they was out working not for profit. We had a daddy did that.
Yeah.
Now the term has come out nonprofit, but go in and look at them and see if they ain't making $80,000, $100,000, $200,000. Yeah, but I work for a charity. Okay, but you're making nonprofit. So how much of your money is going back into helping any of these programs?
With that being said, how do we begin to bring back a sense of community and helping and building up the children? Because I believe this, and it's not just a cliche, that the children are the future, but I go a step further and say that the children are now, how can we, I guess, as a group, as individuals, bring that back? The whole emphasis of the
They had
why.
a perfect plan during the time of doing that. They started some programs here in the city of San Antonio when they was up here where they would go get the kids. They had after school care to where you come through this Y after 3 o'clock, man, it was flooded with kids. They had the answer, but all of it got professionally moved out the way, starting with liabilities and everything else, to where they had over maybe 30 programs. How many did y'all have?
Yeah, well, we didn't have that many. We had that 15 schools, our school sites.
Okay.
In all of them around this area, in the 5-mile radius of this area. And we provided after school child care for each one of those schools. Summer day camps, all of those kind of things. That's all I was showing you when you get through here. Some pictures of it look like 1 or 2. But we used to do all of those things. We did whatever needed. When you mentioned basketball and all that, at night, we convert this room, we move the pool table out, we convert this room at night to a computer room. We had computer labs. We had computers donated because our senior citizens wanted to learn how to use a computer. We did that. So what we did was whatever the community needed is what we tried to provide. It's like you like to play tiddlywinks? You do? What sport you don't like?
I'd say hockey.
Okay, what if I forced you to play that? Wouldn't do too well, would you? My point. So if I would give you tiddlywinks, you say, you.
And bring some people with me, yeah.
You can't force feed people. You
Yeah.
can't shove what you want them to do down their throat. You can't do that. Those are some of the things you can't do. So, if you provide for the community, listen to the community's needs. If you would we surveyed this community several times, and the one distinct answer: provide programs for my kids. Number 1 on each one. Every last survey we've ever done. I'll take care of myself. I'll take care of my own health needs. Provide for my kids. And that has been lost.
Odie, anything on that?
That's pretty much it. He said in the nutshell, all of that, somewhere ties into the Negro League in baseball and all, because I think the whole community was Negro League baseball. I think the whole area was that, because it was a way for us to join in camaraderie in a pleasant sense. And the Y was a strong affiliate of it, and we tie into that through our dad. But it needs to come back. Like saying how to come back, they got so many different distractions now. And a lot of them are select ball and all these different things that they have where people are paying to train their kids, and you can get success out of paying someone to do things. But I guess it was just against our motto, because the Demite Bears never was a team that tried to compensate you for your talents. We appreciated it and we were doing it, but we had a strong bring up in our dad or follow the rules. And when you follow those, you eliminate some things that can happen. But the baseball that he believed in, and like I say, this YMCA that he believed in, it always involved things where you say we, us, and they. There's no I in team. We knew that long. Because he was real important in bringing us up with that. And the community sure needs it.
And speaking about the Negro League, baseball, them like that, we were not the first team to go out to the Spanish American League. After all of these other leagues folded, we were kind of like the third team that went out there. The first black team went out there was the Brown Bugs, called Brown Bugs, Crawford, and they got beat. The second team was called the Reds, which was Miller's dad's team, and they got beat. So when we get out there, they talking about, well, you know, we don't want y'all out here. Y'all can't win out here. The very first year we played out there, we won the league. Very first year we played, we won the league. You know, we didn't win the city championship, but we won the league. We got second in the city championship, but we won the league the very first year. And so after that, in 1994, we became, we won the city championship for the first time. And so when we got, they wouldn't even give us trophies. They wouldn't even acknowledge it. When the game was over, it was just like the game was over with. You know, before the game started, I went out, you know, to talk with the umpires. And before the game, the guy said, "Hey, you know you're going to win this game." I said, "You want to bet?" This is the umpire talking. And so, you know, those are the kind of things we had to go through. And so we just put it on them real bad. And there wasn't no way they could catch up. And that's what we had to do. You know, to overcome those things. Because if I argue back, then I'm going to get throughout the game. And, you know, and it's going, I told y'all they act like that. But they push you. So you have to keep it cool as well. You know, use your wits. You know, learn how to get around this stuff.
And we were educated by the peers that came through this YMCA. We, like I said, we won at an early level, or the early age, should I say, in doing it, but we had the Charles Shannon, the William Husbands. I mean, I could name 100 of them that all were bringing along the little kids, and because they were the community at the time. And that was where the ball was played. They knew we were looking up to them. We were very young. But we had a lot of Charles Shannon, Gregory, the Hempills. We had a lot of people come through that. And as we stated, we learned how winning happened at an early thing when we was playing Pop Warner football. And little did we know we'd go through some little league time where we won all of our games for the whole summer. We were 12-0. And even played Tennessee and Houston and Dallas.
With those cardboard shows.
But it was just some of the things that life has given us the opportunity to do, but I think most of it has been looking at someone in front of you, knowing that you can do it too. And that's the thing about the kids. Hopefully they can hear and see that you can do anything you want to do. You just really have to find out what you're going to sacrifice. And as he stated with me, my sacrifice when my daddy passed away, and I ran probably every day for the next 5 or 6 years, every day. Not some day you could ask me, I'd be running around this park with combat boots on in the rain. I used to run around this park if it was snow. I used to run around this park for some reason. When he passed away, it made me work harder. And what happened, I started finding out the game was changing all of a sudden. I was getting in such good shape that the game was changing. It was getting easier. So it made you work harder. And the same thing with mathematics and studying and doing things. The more I was applying myself to learning what I wanted to do, the easier it was getting in doing it. And that's where the sacrifices now these kids today, man, you could be whatever you want to be. You know, if you want to be that, and you look at what we're having success in San Antonio with a lot of professional athletes coming out of these schools now. We have a lot of schools that, man, you hear about this kid from Wagner, you hear about this kid from Johnson, you hear about these kids from the north side. And everybody right now is at a high level, but, you know, the baseball with African Americans is not there no more. And I'm upset with a lot of the people because the NCAA is also one that's not helping out, because you transition the NCAA to professional and you'll find out that there's no transition in there, because these kids are going to college. All these kids up here going to college. You go up there and you pick out all those schools up there. You might find a few, and none of these are HBCU, but you might find a few, but you're going to find a Latin influence and a foreign influence in a lot of professional sports now, where our kids, they don't have nowhere to go. You know, we used to play, they'd have 3 Americans in one of all. That's because they're going to keep their natives employed. Well, we don't do that in the United States. You might have 3 or 4 of us on a team, but you're gonna have it filled with other things, which is nothing wrong with it, but still, where does the NCAA take them to the next level? And I think professional sports is missing that because they just going right around all these kids that went to college and had a good year and everything. You know, they can't go play in the big leagues in America because America big league teams ain't looking for us.
Mm-hmm.
And we can't compete with the people that play every day, all day long, but yet you take our kids and tell them, hey, you practice too much or no pass, no play. So if you don't have curriculum, you can't play. But yet you're going to go draft people that don't have curriculum either. So I don't know.
I was approached by a white guy one time. He said, man, what are you talking about, man? There's a whole bunch of black guys in baseball. I said, until they put the mic in their mouth. I said,
Right.
watch it. Can't none of them speak English. And so what they did is replaced us with them. So it'll look, the appearance will look like we inclusive when they're exclusive all the way.
Absolutely. Wow.
Those kind of things that we fight through. We've been fighting all our lives, and you know, that I don't have to, I mean, you know, and it's really a shame. It really is. It just, you know, our black kids are pushed, if they, like you said, good ones, are pushed to this. There's nothing wrong with that. I'm not disagreeing with any of it. But say, what about the ones that's like in my position, slightly less, wants to do, want to get in, want to stay active, want to get back in the sport? Then they need to open up the HBCUs. See what I mean? Use the HBCUs. Best thing in the world could ever happen to me was going to Prairie View A&M University. Now, I'm not saying overall, I'm saying Prairie View A&M because that's where I went. But that same experience that I received, millions of freshmen, when they first went out, had the same experience. One thing about HBCU, we all have the same experiences. It's just different schools, different parts of the country. These people gonna tell you, yeah, you gonna make it. We're gonna make sure you make it. You go there, number so-and-so, and if you don't answer, you didn't turn it in. We used to go on long road trips down to Prairie View. When you get back, our professor say, damn it, take this with you before you go. You'll be back in 2 weeks. When you come back in 2 weeks, come to my office and you can turn in your work. They made sure you did this. They made sure you did this. And I would wish that more people started using the HBCUs instead of,
Yeah, why we got this?
you know, because that's what makes money for them.
Prime example.
See, that's what happened between segregation and immigration.
Yes, sir.
Segregation, we making our own money. Immigration, that's you them to make our money. That's what.
In light of that, and I heard in an interview recently, Black minister was talking to the president, and he asked him the question, and I'll pose the same question to you. Do you think there is still tone deafness to the racial inequalities in the United States, or is it a willful ignorance?
Willful ignorance. They don't want to be. They don't want to be inclusive. They want to stay separate. With our president, you can tell they don't want to be. They don't want to be. You know, justice for them is just us. That's what they mean. They're not trying to worry about us. They want to see all of us back on boats. How come when the Haitians come across on boats, they get stopped in the middle of the water? When everybody else come across, they get stopped at our borders. Why? See what I mean? Y'all can't come in. So it's too many double standards. It's just too
Then
many.
they say the favorite thing, we've done too much for your people already. Well, wait a minute. If y'all would have let us start doing ourselves 100 years ago with our grandparents, maybe by now we would have it down like y'all do, because your grandparents got a bank account, your grandparents worked, but then now we're in a situation where the word is we've done too much for y'all already. Well then, hey, this land belongs to the Indians.
Yeah, what have you done for us?
We all got it. We know the laws have been written, but we know the laws are flawed.
And you've taken everything you want.
Especially in some of these sad situations with these
Yeah, these are some, I'd like to say some challenging times, but times really haven't changed. The only thing that's changed is the day, the month, and the year. Last question for the both of you. You can answer any way you want. If there's anything you'd like to just give our viewing audience, any words of wisdom, any things that you've observed, any ideas, thoughts that you feel may be able to help propel us as a people forward, us as a state forward, even us as a country forward. I know it's a pretty broad-based question, but
I could say for myself, I would like to thank my parents who brought us up in a Christian environment and also in a sports mentality to learn to share with others in doing it. And listening to what I wanted to do in life really wasn't the opinion that was taken. It was what we thought was best our parents wanted us to do. And so much of it is today to be able to have kids that are over 30 and they still ask for our opinion. It means a lot, because so many kids after the age of 21 don't want their parents to tell them nothing. Or at 18, we came up where we couldn't talk back, but at the same time, our kids are still asking us questions. And I think for any young kid, as far as your advancement, the knowledge is in front of you. Unfortunately, the parent used to bring home, along with the education at school, used to bring back your thoughts and where you could go. But now we have a new tool that teaches everybody a lot. Not always true, but you can find it on the internet. And so by the time a kid today come and ask their parents something, they already know the answer. They just want to see what you're going to say. And along with that, they're getting maybe not all of their expectations, because I know the parent had your interests in mind of where some of their mistakes could have had, and they were trying to make sure that you don't run through those same obstacles, is where we have to try to be today with these kids. But they're learning so much, so fast. And the leaders still have to lead by example. And I just wish that everyone had an opportunity to grow up under my daddy, because he was
Well, he whooped everybody on the east side.
We could have been in the Army, or we was already in the Army years ago, because there wasn't no stepping out of bounds. But it's been a great interview. My brother probably follow up.
It's just been, I've been blessed. And I've been blessed because I have a beautiful family, and my mother and father, my brother and sister, all of us, it was just the support mechanism. It was just awesome. And so we tried to create that here when I was, here at the Y, and I wanted to close with this. That's why I was trying to find Kurt, because Kurt used to work for me, one of my employees, and I want to get him to explain what the YMCA meant. And the reason why I'm saying that is because it was so much, we gave you the background of what was going on. There was so much going on to where we renamed the YMCA. It wasn't no Young Men's Christian Association no more, because it was, women in there, all of that. But it still, that's the original name. But for this YMCA, Davis Scott YMCA, the YMCA stood for You Must Care Always. Okay? And everybody who ever worked for me will tell you. I ain't about to open my mouth. I'll just say that and they'll tell you. Because that's what it meant to us. And so if we follow that, going back to the golden rule and all of this, if you treat people like that, your true customer service, everything works itself out. We talked about that earlier. You know, one thing about it, if you stay on the right side, if you do right, you can't go wrong. There's no way you can go wrong. But if you waver in your faith and you waver, then you know the story. So those simple things in life have got to come back. Because now it's hustle and bustle, phone, text. I mean, people don't even have time enough to sit down and talk to you anymore. You won't even sit. You can't even communicate no more. When I left here in the corporate office, we had in cubicles and we didn't talk. And people still texting each other instead of reaching out, hey man, how you doing? You going, hey, you got it. Instead of doing that, we lost all of that. All of that is gone. And so my thing is to bring this country, this world back. It's simple. You must care always. You must try. And the attitude starts with you. You have to change yours first. Then you can change others. And then and so all we want to do is be accounted for. Be treated as humans. Just don't when you see me walking and tuck and run. I mean, golly, I'm not over. I mean, I got the horn blowing out my head or something. All of those kind of things that we've been ridiculed about and been persecuted with all these years. And see, white folks don't see it. And they don't really care because that's the way they are. Just the way they are. They took everything that they want. And that's what they're doing now. They're going to take whatever they want. And you're supposed to just sit there and take it. Well, no, the day's over. No, the day's over. I have an opinion, I have a mind, and I have feelings. And so all of those things come into play. And so, basically, golden rule. If everybody go back to that, this country would change.
And I must put a shout out to my sister, who is the third one, that she taught in the Houston school district system for 42 years and has been retired and still goes back to the school every day when they were open in the past, non-pay, and work every day. And afternoon with the kids and doing it from her heart. Over 10 years, maybe she's probably doing, almost 10 years after her 42. Yeah, that she still goes back to the school. And you want to say what our dad influences was and what we had influence? That should kind of explain.
And I think that's a very good ending point right here. You must care always. We've been talking to the Davis brothers and their perspective on San Antonio, the Negro Leagues baseball, and most importantly, on community. Gentlemen, we thank you so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Trying to get Kurt got a bad with all YMCA pictures, all that stuff.
Does it?
Trying to get it and showing some of that stuff. I guess I get